My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Film Code. My name is Phoenix Clouden, and what a day already. Man, we should have started this 30 minutes ago. But anyway, we are, of course, back. Brandon, our Season 3 code-breaking reigning champion. How are you, sir?
Man, I am good, Phoenix. It is great to be back. Went out of town last weekend, so we had a guest talking Exorcist with you. If you haven't listened to that yet, pause this, go check that out. At the time of this recording, actually, it just released as of 1 minute ago. So go check that out and then come back here. But yeah, how are you doing, Phoenix?
Superb. And of course, we are joined once again by a very special guest. I've been on his show multiple times, and he has never been on mine, which he informed me, and I totally didn't even realize that. So I'm so happy to welcome Jason. Welcome to Film Code. It has been a dream pairing for a long time. How have you been?
I'm good. I had to shame you into being on the podcast.
That's a damn shame. I can't believe I've never had you on. That's crazy.
We're 50 minutes over start time because he almost ghosted me. And then on top of that, he said, hey, I got a bunch of movies. You can talk about anyone you want. And I said, okay, here's my number one pick. And he goes, except for that one. And I go, okay, well, I guess I could talk about this movie. He goes, okay, that's the one you're talking about. So he gave me fake choices after guilting him to be on it. So I feel like I'm only here to assuage his guilt. I don't feel like I'm wanted here or needed here in any capacity. But I'm happy to be here.
Which choices did he give you?
I think The Exorcist, which is what I preferred to do.
Yeah.
This and some other movie, which I'm sure will make a great episode for you. So, you know.
Well, we are thrilled that you're here. Real quick, let's get the shameless plugs out of the way because obviously I've been on your show several times. Yeah. Why don't you tell everybody about your show?
Well, I am Jason from BingeMovies. Movies. I am the last manager of the last video store in the universe. If your video store has a universe, I'm not in your universe. We typically rank 5 films to determine which movie is most worthy of preservation for all time, even beyond the end times. And then the best movies, according to the guest, the best movies according to me, square off at the end of each season. We have 4 seasons per year, 4 series per year, basically. And they square off quarterly in a movie debate we call Last Movie Standing, which Phoenix has competed in and tried to cheat in. And said so on the microphone. So I feel like cheating. And then it was like, so that went sideways. And then our listeners and patrons, patreon.com/BingeMovies, they decide, they get the vote. And so we're trying to build a people's canon, which we call the vault. We know what AFI says, and we know what all these other, hoi polloi, all the ivory tower academics and film snobs and film critics have to say what the best movies of all time are. We're making our own canon devised by our listeners and our patrons. So that's basically the gist of it. And then in between there, I do a bunch of other crazy malarkey. So if you like malarkey, if you like bullshit, if you like craziness, if you like death matches, and you like film analysis, if you like gobbledygook, death matches, film criticism, film analysis, and madness, Binge Movies is for you.
Absolutely. I still have not gotten over our last episode. We did one of the most torturous things I've ever.
It created so many beautiful moments, though.
Oh man, I hope it's a very successful episode because it was a lot of fun to record, but also like hell to sit through.
Sometimes the best episodes are the ones that are hardest to get to, and I feel that maybe that's going to be the case today.
Yes, because we have been stalling on this one. But anyway, we are in the middle of October, which means we are talking all horror movies. And We are super thrilled that, well, I know for me, this was my first time ever seeing this movie. We are talking John Carpenter's The Thing from 82? Yeah, 1982, starring Kurt Russell and oh my god. Oh, I love this guy and I totally forgot his name.
Keith David.
Keith David, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Keith David, TK Carter, and a
I
bunch of
see,
other
what
people.
I see what you're doing here, Phoenix.
What's that? Oh, those are the names I remember. Leave me alone.
Is it? Yeah, hang on now. Is it any wonder that Phoenix did not mention the Quaker Oats man, the whitest? The Quaker Oats is the whitest food for the whitest people, and he don't know shit about Wilford Brimley, but he dropped TK
That
Carter.
biz.
TK Carter. As one of the top billed actors. TK Carter has never been a top billed actor in anything, even when he was one of the main characters in Saved by the Bell. Nobody even references him in relationship to Saved by the Bell. But with The Thing, you're like, it's Kurt Russell, yeah, it's Keith David, it's TK Carter, and everybody else.
And everybody else.
And all the other jars of mayonnaise.
Completely neglecting. He completely neglected one of the biggest memes. Diabetes.
Yeah, we totally left Wilford Brimley hanging.
Wilford Brimley, I'm sorry, David Clinton, Richard Dysart. They're all in here, and I'm sure they're great people.
Phoenix did not.
Donald Moffat. I'm sorry, I totally forgot about Donald Moffat. My bad.
Turnabout is fair play, Phoenix, and Phoenix clearly didn't grow up in an oatmeal house. Brandon and I grew up in oatmeal houses. Look at us.
Yeah,
we're a couple oatmeal boys.
The apples and cinnamon, man.
Apples and cinnamon. Oh yeah, we're oatmeal boys.
Oh man,
yeah,
that was great. So, like I said, this was my first time seeing The Thing. So, I remembered who I remembered. But anyway, is this what is your relationship with this movie, Brandon?
I remember who I remembered. I'm sorry, Brandon. I'm sorry.
Okay. So my relationship with this movie, about 3 years ago, a friend of mine, a buddy of mine, his name is Caesar. We like regularly Discorded back then, back when I had time to do things. And we were like, you know what? Let's watch a movie. And we watched The Thing. We watched a few movies. We watched The Platform that came out a few years ago. We watched what was it? 28 Days Later. Also a first time watch for me. And then we stumbled upon The Thing. And that was a movie I personally have been wanting to watch for a long time. And I watched it and I loved it. I absolutely loved it so much. And like I've only been able to watch it one more time, which was last night and this morning. But it's easily top 5 horror for me. Wow. I know I'm jumping the gun here on that, but yeah. So that's my relationship with this movie.
Jason, what about you?
Right now, I feel like timeless Jason from BingeMovies Movies, that I should just be silhouetted in black and white because I feel so elderly. I feel like I'm just rolling into your podcast in a wheelchair with a blanket over my lap, very, very old, that you got me a day pass from the old folks home.
Right.
And you're like, come on, old man. Come on this show and talk about these old timey movies. And that's what I feel like, because you're like, both of you guys are like, yeah, I just saw it a couple of years ago, which there's nothing wrong with that, but because it makes total sense based on your ages. But for me, being an elderly, I've seen this movie for 4 decades. So, famously, this movie did not do well, right? Like, it was not
Right.
well received at the time. It was kind of a flop. And there's a lot of different ideas of why that was. Some people say it's because of E.T. and just the general climate and the mood of the country at the time was they were not in the mood for a really fucking depressing, dour, dark, goopy monster movie. So it didn't do well, but it found its audience on home video, and it found its audience in particular in cable, because here in the States, the USA Network ran this movie seemingly constantly.
Yeah.
And it was the TV version, which isn't anywhere near as good, obviously, and it's got a weird opening explanation, and it's just back when TV versions used to be like almost different versions of the movie, not just the censorship, but like they'd add stuff, to fill out the runtime and from what they cut, and so TV version is not very good. But I was homesick from school sometime in the early 90s, back before either of you were born, and it came on the USA Network. My dad took the day off to take care of me because I was sick, and it was just on. And my dad had no sense of what was appropriate for a child to see or not when it came to science fiction and horror movies. And so he just let me watch it. It was just like a middle of a Thursday afternoon, and it was on. And I don't know how to explain it other than, even as a kid, even as an 8-year-old or however old I was, as soon as I saw it, I was like, you get that gut feeling inside when you're watching a good movie, and it's just like, oh, this is good. I think in terms of how we talk about now, we talk about like, being served like a meal. That was like a whole meal, and we ate all of it and that sort of thing. And that's what it felt like. It felt like I'm being served something masterfully made. And that's, as I've grown in my appreciation of movies, and I've watched at this point thousands of movies just for this show, I would say that's how I feel about it. I think it's, when John Carpenter passes, he's going to be remembered for a lot of things, but the main thing, other than Halloween, I think he'll be remembered for is The Thing. I think it is his masterpiece. I think it's the best movie he's ever made, will ever make, and it's a stone cold classic.
I 100% agree with that. I do think I would put this above the Halloween, but yeah, that's just me.
I'm gonna have to agree here. Halloween did wonders for the slasher franchise, and I'm not discounting that. Halloween did so much right and did so much to trailblaze for future films to come. But The Thing, I think, is John Carpenter's best work.
Well, he's got some money, like the first Halloween was not a studio film, not really. It eventually got picked up, but it was a very low budget babysitter killer movie, right? Babysitter stalker movie. And then he and his partner, Deborah Hill, who was his writing and production partner and romantic partner at the time, kind of took it and elevated it, because they were being given an opportunity in their career to make a movie that could potentially be a big hit. And so they intentionally elevated it beyond what it needed to be to make money. So that's great. But based on that success and some other successes he had, he's now given the chance to make whatever movie he wants, and he decides to remake The Thing from Another World. And I think what's so amazing about this is he ends up kind of remaking like a Howard Hawks film to the end. Where now, remakes are ubiquitous and reboots or whatever, and we mostly despise them. But I would say at this point, when you think of The Thing, you don't think of the original at all.
No.
This movie has so surpassed the original, it is now almost by default the de facto original film.
The original.
It's the original The Thing. And that's very hard to do with a movie that had already had a legacy by the time he inherited it. And he does borrow a lot of elements from it. The opening title sequence where the title burns through the screen, and so much of it is very similar. I mean, it is the plot points. It is a remake. It is a true remake. But where he takes it, what he does with it, is at a completely different level. And it is a massive disgrace that this movie didn't find its audience in 1982. But here we are. It eventually did.
I mean, movies have a habit of not doing so well 30, 40 years ago, because and they turn around to be cult classics. Just look at Empire Strikes Back, The Shining, this film, just there's so many different films. Like I know I listed 3, and there's so many more. I just can't think of the top of my head.
Yeah.
But there's so many films that weren't well received back then.
Yeah.
That nowadays are just masterpieces.
Well, it kind of
2001.
It kind of makes you wonder: are we producing? Are we making anything now? Because we're movie podcasters. So 30 years from now, will we look back and go, "Well, geez, we missed the boat on." I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Ant-Man Quantumania. Will we look back and go, actually,
Yes.
Quantumania, my God, what a masterpiece.
You guys will, yes.
I refuse.
You guys will. I'll be the one going, I told you so. But yes.
This is
Actually,
a conversation.
what an dynamic film Black Adam turned out to be. My God, the juxtaposition between, yeah.
This is a conversation for another time, but I think the sequel trilogy might end up on that too.
Yeah. I mean, maybe.
I'm going down with the ship that those movies should burn in hell. I'm sorry. Fuck them. You ever? I don't know. Can you swear in this podcast? I know Brandon doesn't.
Oh yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, you
so
can.
I try not to.
I should have. I know Brandon loves the Lord, but I feel like the phrase "fuck you" and anyone who looks like you. That's how I feel about that sequel trilogy. Fuck you. Fuck anybody who likes you. Fuck anybody who knows you, and fuck anybody that looks like you.
You know what's funny is Phoenix hasn't even seen the sequel trilogy yet.
Fuck your friends and fuck your family.
Phoenix has seen the main 6, and that's it. I'm so worried for when he reaches the Rise of Skywalker because I feel like he's gonna love it.
Okay. So now, my little caveat there is, if in my brain I reject Rise of Skywalker as a Star Wars movie, but accept it as a series of 1980s Saturday morning cartoons that somebody's thrown together into a supercut, if it's like 6 weeks of Saturday morning cartoons, then I'm like, oh, this is just a live action, Saturday morning cartoon from the 80s. You're like, it doesn't make any sense. Nothing makes any sense, but it might be the best Transformers movie that's ever been made. It's not a Star Wars movie. So I get enjoyment out of it. It's like, well, how did Palpatine come back? And in the movie, they're like, nobody knows. I'm like, that's fine. Yeah, dark magic, sure, okay, cloning, all right, whatever. I don't give a shit. By that point, it's so in the dirt. Who gives a shit anymore?
Phoenix is not even prepared for how bad of a film that is.
I'm looking forward to it. But anyway.
I'm hoping.
Phoenix,
we're going off on it.
Skywalker in one of these movies sucks a tit, squeezes a tit, and drinks the milk out of it, and smiles with the milk all up in his beard.
And it's not a woman or a man.
No, it's a monster, and that is where they're like, "What? We haven't seen Luke Skywalker, the greatest protagonist in film history, in 40 years. What's he been up to?"
When you start
he's out here fucking fish and drinking titty milk, and that's what he's been up to. And he's real sad. They're like, "Oh, what a beautiful, what a beautiful deconstruction of modern heroism. It's a postmodern deconstruction of the modernist hero, and that's what makes it so." And in 40 years, I'm still the phrase is already outdated. It will be even more outdated when I say this in 2060. Miss me with that bullshit. Get the fuck out of here. You ruined Luke Skywalker. You ruined his legacy, and fuck it.
We have gone off on such a tangent.
It's fine. A Star Wars tangent is always welcome. Yeah. But getting back to the thing.
Yeah.
So, like I said, this was my first time with this movie, and I'm Kurt Russell was huge in the 80s. I feel like he had all of the like action, thriller kind of roles as the lead or whatever. And always kind of like the badass who would take charge and dominate and everything. This was such an interesting watch. So let me talk about my first watch with this movie. So I watched it last night at like 1 a.m. because
no wonder you slept in.
Yeah, exactly. So and not to mention,
this is a good 1 a.m. movie though. This is good at 1 a.m.
Not to me.
Oh
yeah, not to me, because it was cool. It was kind of going a little slow. I was like, I don't know what this is. What's happening here? And then finally, they put the dog in in the kennel with the other dogs, right?
Yeah.
And just as when things started to go, like, because it's a really, the way they do it is really kind of terrifying. Because
Yes.
you'll see the other dogs, they're just barking at this one dog and showing their teeth, and saying, you're like, oh man, what's their issue? And the dog looks normal. Like
Yep.
it cuts to the dog, he looks normal. Cuts to the other dogs barking at him, it's fine. Cuts back to the dog, looks normal. The other dog's still barking at him, fine.
Yep.
And then when they go back to the dog again, his head is split open, and
all the other dogs are like, "Oh shit, get me the hell out of here!"
Tentacle and goo is
Right.
splurting everywhere.
it
Yeah.
literally, when that happened, that third cut, when the monster jumps out, something like landed on my leg at that point in time. So it's just like, oh, ah! Like just pure fear. So like 1:30 in the morning, like screaming. So like, man, like I was unprepared for that. Like that alone. And then it got worse.
Oh yeah.
Somehow got worse.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a big body horror kind of guy. Like I'm
Oh
just not.
boy.
And again, I knew nothing about this movie, so like when that
Wow.
happened, and it's just like the tentacles are coming out, I'm like,
The digestive
oh,
enzymes, and it starts like
yeah,
melting the dogs and the fur slipping off
like,
their body, and it's dragging them in to absorb them. It's fucked up.
yeah, it's just so gross. like I was unprepared for how disgusting it would be, and that continues throughout the entire movie. There's a lot of things coming out of people, and like, yeah,
A lot of
it's
fluids.
just deeply unsettling, like
Yeah.
deeply unsettling, and it happens so often. So like for me, I get why it became a cult classic. I get why some people like it, but I gotta keep this movie at a distance, because like yeah, like after first watch, I'm just like, keep that over there. Like it's great movie,
Yeah.
great effects, great practical effects,
Yeah.
but disgusting.
It's a
Like,
disgusting movie. Yeah.
absolutely disgusting.
Let me give you another old timey reference, okay? So
We got to get some Calliope music for that. Put that in the
yeah. The 1970s Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the one with Donald Sutherland, which is also a remake. We had seen in movies before The Thing and after The Thing, like doppelganger movies, right? Where a creature kind of takes over somebody's body and makes a duplicate of them. I mean, even Us, to some extent, it is a doppelganger movie. It's 4 evil in quotes versions of yourself show up when you're on vacation. But wait, the closest thing would be that 70s Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where somebody's asleep somewhere and you go in and there's like vines and tentacles and all this sort of stuff, like going up and through their nose and all this sort of stuff, and then there's this pod and a copy of them is being born in this pod. Yeah. What is possible? Well, we've seen it before. What is happening here is it's not making a copy of you externally from you. It's making a copy of you on a cellular level.
Right.
And so it raises so many interesting questions, which is, do you know that you've become a thing? When do you become the thing? Because when they catch the transformation of Bennings, and he breaks through the window and he's running through the snow, he obviously knows he's the thing, right?
Right.
And they get all around him, and that noise that comes out of his mouth, and everybody's like, hold on, it's not Bennings, and
then his mouth just opens, dude. It's so terrifying.
That is some creepy shit, because it's truly otherworldly, the sound that he makes. It doesn't sound like anything I've heard in any movie ever. And then you look, it's just a subtle thing where his hand is it's obviously not human. It's in the process.
Little
of
T-Rex
becoming-
hands.
Yeah, it's becoming human, It's like,
Right.
man, 5 more seconds and you would not have known that wasn't him, right? And so he obviously seems to know that the thing seems to be conscious. But when Norris has a heart attack, did he know he was a thing? Because I've watched this movie dozens of times. I never. Where's the moment where Norris becomes the thing, and where's the moment where he knows he's a thing? Was the heart attack a trap for the chest bursting scene? Was it the thing? Why would it do that? Or when it copied him, did it copy a heart defect or heart disease? And so he just wasn't or was he just not a suitable host? And so it was in the process of copying him, and his body couldn't take the transformation, but part of him had already turned. I don't know. And normally in a movie, when there are no real clear answers, it kind of, I don't say clear answers, but when there's not even allusions to answers, it's very bothersome, especially in modern movies, because in modern movies, going back to our Star Wars thing, not to dive into that, but when they mystery box movies now, I no longer have the sense that they know the answers to the questions that they're creating. I do not have a sense that anyone ever knew who Maz Kanata actually was, or why she had Luke Skywalker's lightsaber from Cloud City. How the heck did she get it? Never answered. Nobody knows, but we put it in the movie. So there is a trust that's been broken between modern filmmakers and audiences when everything's been so franchised and sequelized that you're just creating potentials for spin-offs.
They do that because they leave so much up to interpretation.
Yes.
So they're like, so like you said, they can go back and like, hey,
fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
Now we can make a side movie about how did she get that lights or whatever.
I don't know if you
this movie has no. Yeah, this movie has. Sorry to cut you off. This movie has no sense of that. There's no sense of the sense is this thing is so otherworldly. We don't understand how it works.
Right.
And when you think you understand how it works, it's going to get you by tentacle. It's going to transform you like it does with beddings. That's clearly not what happens to everybody, because they have the conversation about everybody should prepare their own foods and we should only eat from cans, because all it takes is one cell of this alien life form to get into your body and it will take you over. So it can get you like a monster, like you were saying, Phoenix, or it can get you imperceptibly. It's just the air. It's just in the air you breathe.
That's kind of how it feels. Just like not everything needs explaining.
That's what makes this movie so powerful, because by the end, are either one of them a thing? Is one of them a thing?
See, that's what
they don't even know. Do they know? Does the thing even know it's a thing? We don't know.
That's the cliffhanger ending I love, because it's you are left up to interpretation, but you don't need a sequel.
Right. Yes.
You're just left
with an
with
explanation.
Yes. Yeah. That's the true horror. Is it's like it kind of mind fucks you at the end. You're like, hold on a second, who is who? And like they even said like, I say we just kind of sit here a while, see what happens. Yes. Do they freeze to death? Do they make it out?
Well, no matter what, they're so far away from civilization that they're going to freeze to death. If one or both of them is the thing, they won't die. They'll just go into hibernation, like the original thing that they found, that the Norwegians found. But it's not a good ending. No matter what, they're both going to die or freeze. And if one of them is the thing, it's such a. Kurt Russell's like, well, if one of us is the thing, there's not much either one of us could do about it. Which is a really fucking downbeat ending, right? It's after all these explosions, after all this stuff, where it kind of for a brief moment kind of becomes an action movie, at the end it's sort of like, well, it's futility, it's pointless.
Right.
And I don't know, can we handle a movie today that would just be like, nothing is really explained. It's very gross, disgusting, terrifying, and really somber and downbeat. I don't know that we could.
Film Twitter would not accept it well.
Right. I mean, in fairness, audiences didn't accept it in 1982 either.
Right.
But man, I don't think you could do this today. I think you'd have to be like, well, this is how it works, and this is,
it's interesting to me. The ending didn't bother me at all.
I
Like,
love the ending. Yeah.
yeah, like the ending didn't bother me at all. What I was a little bit confused by, but now that we've spoken about it, I kind of get it. I thought the paranoia happened a little bit too quickly, like where everybody's just started like blaming each other. Like, are you is you that? I'm
Right.
like I feel like that kind of came on a little bit too quickly because it was just like I don't know, dude.
Can I address that for a second?
Yeah,
So the movie does a masterful job of during the boring parts, like you were saying, Phoenix, before the dog turns,
right.
to show us what their life is currently like in. They've been isolated. They've been there a long ass time.
Right.
They've already been in Antarctica for a long ass time, to the point that Palmer's there, he's smoking weed, and they've already seen that episode of oh god, I can't remember. It's not Price is Right, but it's the other one, the door one, the game show. He's like, I've already seen this one. He takes the tape out. They've already burned through, and we also have to remember this is the 80s, right? So there's only so many magazines, there's only so many VHS tapes, they're not getting cable up there, there's no satellite TV. They're isolated, they're cloistered. There are a bunch of, like, some of them are scientists, some of them are seemingly ex-military. They don't really get along to begin with. It's not like they're a group of friends or a group of people who love each other. They're there for a job. They've worn each other down. They're on each other's last nerve already.
Right.
And we see, as we track through the compound, TK Carter, Knowles, he's blaring his music, and Knowles, can you turn that music down? And he cranks it up. Like, we see that these guys are at their wits' end with each other, and they don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah.
So a group of people who are already kind of at each other's throats, who then have some absolutely bizarre, otherworldly, terrifying body horror shit, where if somebody just looks at you the wrong way, you could turn into a monster, have that happen in their midst. I think that's why they're immediately to jump, because they were already against each other. Now you've introduced the unimaginable into that circumstance, the uncontrollable, and so it's like, it's just, and I think it's what makes the movie so great, is that it's about monsters, this monster or whatever, but I think it's ultimately about human beings, and it's ultimately it's kind of a whodunit.
Right.
But the killer, so to speak, is always changing.
It's so well crafted in my eyes.
Yeah,
it's extremely well crafted. I mean, like I said, like that first, like, the only reason I felt like that beginning was slow is because it was 1:00 in the morning, for one.
Yeah.
and I knew nothing about this movie, right?
Yeah,
I'm sure on like second, third viewing, I'll be like, no, this is great too. But like, I do especially love when McCready is playing chess, and then beats him, and he just like throws his drink in the computer, like,
cheating bitch.
Right.
Well, that's the other thing. He's even at odds with the fucking game computer, right? Like that's how wore out these guys are.
Yeah, like that's how like their situation is. It's like,
yeah.
And you have the I can't remember his name. I think it was Wilson. Something, I don't remember, but he's trying to get he's trying to contact someone.
Oh, Windows.
Yeah,
Windows.
Yeah.
And he's trying to contact someone, and there's no response. Like, so like, not only are you stuck in this situation, but you haven't been able to speak to anybody else outside of it for weeks, right? Yeah. So like, all of this stuff adds to that element of, feeling isolated, feeling, in a bubble, and you're just you're ready to snap. So like, I totally get it. Like, and I do think they set it up very well to get to that reveal with the dog, which I do think was pretty excellent. Yeah, but I can say I am so very, very glad I did not see this as a kid. I look, when it comes to horror movies, I love horror movies. I am a really big slasher fan, right? I'm a really big psychological thriller fan. I could do all other types of horror, but body horror to this extent, no. like it unsettles me so bad. Like, and which is crazy because one of my favorite horror movies of all time is The Fly. But like,
Oh, that's like the
yeah,
ultimate body horror movie.
this is
Yeah.
the ultimate body horror movie. But like, I don't know, like I can't do a lot of body horror. It's just so gross to me.
Yeah.
Like so gross. And like this one takes it to the extreme because I mean, like, I think about you just said his name too, the guy who had the heart attack.
Norris.
Norris, Norris who had the heart attack. Like when his head comes off and then grows like spider legs and stuff, I'm just like, oh, like it's just so many things.
That's disgusting. It really is. And that's where we get that perfect line, of course, where Palmer's like, "You gotta be fucking kidding me." Yeah, because that's what you're thinking as the audience member the first time you see it. You're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
it's so imaginative, right? Isn't it so imaginative?
Absolutely.
How it's not just it's disgusting, it's deeply imaginative. And shout out to Rob Bottin who did the most of the special effects.
Like, yeah, the team who did the special effects, the
practically it's makeup
team, bro. Like,
what in the world?
Hats off, like some of the best. I was shocked I didn't see Rick Baker's name on here, so even better. Like, you guys are sensational, but like gross, like so gross, guys.
Yeah,
but very, like you said, very imaginative, very creative. Yeah, and like to me, I think Norris's transformation is the worst. I do think his is the worst.
Holy shit, man! The first time I saw it as a kid, there's 2 scenes in this movie that blew. Three scenes. The dog scene, obviously, especially once the whole group comes back and they shine the flashlight and it's in the corner and it's just this giant, almost plant-like monstrosity that is almost seems like something out of Resident Evil, obviously like 10 years before Resident Evil existed. So it's just like really fucking disgusting. That one, then as a kid, I mean, you cannot imagine how blown my mind was when they were doing chest compressions on this guy. His entire chest cavity breaks open and is hollow.
And it just munches.
And his entire chest is a giant monster mouth.
Yeah.
And chews through the guy's arms. Oh, and they obviously cut away from him lifting his arms up and you see the stumps.
Yeah.
But oh man, I was that and the third one that got me is the blood scene when they're doing the blood test because it goes on so long.
Yeah.
And the first time I saw it, I didn't know what the hell was going to happen. I remember that freaked me out that he's like, I thought you'd say that, Childs. That's why we'll do you last or something like that. And he puts it in the thing jumps out of the fucking container. Oh my God. Yeah. Even the blood is a monster.
Oh my God. The thing that gets me, man, in that scene is when that one guy, I forget his name, but he takes the knife and stabs directly into his nail and then cuts
into
for like
thumb.
3 inches.
Yes.
I'm like, oh my God.
Yep.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Just brutal. Yeah. Like that's another scene where I'm like,
honestly though, the like you're saying, like I think it's Clark, the guy who was obsessed with the dog, Richard Mauser, the cutting of the thumb, the sound effect was like is like so real looking that I'm just like, are they just cutting their fucking thumbs on the screen? Right. It looks real, and they're squeezing the blood off into the thing, and then I'm like, oh my God, this is a bloodborne, potentially contagion.
Right.
Well, you're sharing that knife, and I know that they're using the knife and they're heating it up and but like the first guy just like wipes the knife off on his jeans, and I'm like, but if he's a thing, it's like the whole. And I've seen this movie a million times. But every time I'm like, what the fuck? No, don't do that. You know, I want to stop the scene from happening because I know the blood's going to react. I know the blood's going to be like trying like running away when the blood scatters on the floor and like all the blood droplets are going in opposite directions because they're all sentient. And then Palmer starts transforming. I'm like, oh my God. And they're tied to the monster.
And they all, what's crazy is like they all die with the exception of like 3 of them.
2 of them.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And like you can completely blame McCready for that. Like that is 100% his fault.
I honestly though, I think like 2/3 of the way through, like one of them, because the thing destroys the chopper because it's due to build its little ship. So it destroys the chopper, it destroys the radio, it destroys any way for them to communicate and warn the outside world. Right. It destroys any way for them to leave. And eventually the camp gets blown up, the building gets blown up, the generators are dying, they're going to run out of gas. And so it's like at a certain point, and it's not even towards, it's like the last 1/4 of the movie, basically. McCready's like, it's pretty clear we're not going to make it out of here alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So at this point, the rest of the movie, it's like, it's not a matter about us living. It's a matter of us killing or stopping this thing, because if it reaches civilization, it's game over.
Yeah.
And there's there's something about how coldly they're all resigned to the fact of like, it's over. Because in the rest of the movies, you get kind of some, we got to stop it from reaching the mainland. Like be some big speech. There's no big speech. It's just like, we're fucked. We're going to die. We got to stop it. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's so understated. I love it.
There's a lot of similarities, I guess, to The Shining here, of like The Thing compared to Jack Torrance. I mean, because Jack Torrance does the same thing. He destroys any chance of them leaving.
Yeah.
He knocks out their communication, and it's not Jack Torrance doing it. It's the entity of the hotel getting to him.
Yeah.
And just that's how what I love to see. It's just like I love the comparisons between the two. And
we need a Scatman Carruthers down in Florida. Watching some porno, get a thing in his head that says, I got to get up to Antarctica, and then you think he's going to save the day, and then just ends up getting an axe in the chest. I could say the only way you could improve this movie is if you replace TK Carter with Scatman Carruthers. I think everything's better with Scatman.
No, you can't replace TK Carter.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, TK. Who could we replace with Scatman Carruthers?
Keith David?
No, you can't touch Keith David. He's a saint. Maybe you could get rid of Donald Moffat as Gary, the army guy with the gun. You could make that Scatman. Yeah.
That'd be hilarious. Yeah, I'm like, apologies for anyone listening. We did not give a spoiler warning, so yeah, so much of it is so impeccably done, and it's such a weird concept for a movie. And like you said, it is a remake. But to me, it feels like this is sort of like the blueprint, you could argue, for like even the zombie movies that we have today, because it's basically an outbreak, right? That happens, that occurs, that transforms everyone. So like, it feels very much like, like this feels like the prequel to every single zombie movie I think I've ever seen. Feels very similar to like The Last of Us or something like that, like in that vein.
Very much.
Yeah. So like, but it's a brilliant concept. It's very, very well executed, incredibly well executed. It's just so goddamn gross. Like, I just can't get past how disgusting this movie is. Like, what's interesting, like this month, like we talked about The Shining, we talked about Psycho, we talked about The Exorcist, and like all of those movies are different in the way in which they deliver their horror and what chills you or whatever. Like, to me, the ones that we've discussed, I think Psycho is probably the one that scared me the most. But like, this one is right up there because like I said, I don't do body horror, and like part of the reason why I was a little late today is because I was scared to go to sleep. like legit, because I'm like, I know I'm going to have nightmares. like know that about myself.
Yeah.
Like, and it didn't happen last night, but it's gonna happen. Like in the
Yeah.
next 2-3 days, I'm gonna get a weird ass dream where my feet become faces and with teeth, and it's gonna run out and wake up screaming like, "Holy shit!" Like, because this is like body horror is just one of the grossest things you can do. It's one of the most creative and visionary things you can do, and I
Yeah.
think that's part of the reason why people keep coming back to it is because
Yeah.
you can always do new and inventive things with it.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen that. Like, obviously this is the first body horror movie ever made, but like to me it's definitely one of the highest standards.
Oh yeah.
And it's just amazing the creativity that you can come up with in that type of scenario. So very original, and especially for its time. I totally get why it flopped and wasn't well received, but
In the summer of E.T., like in one
yeah.
theater, E.T. is playing, and the next theater of this cold, sterile, like the
Yeah.
score of this movie consists of basically just
Mm.
bum bum
Ennio
bum
Morricone.
bum, yeah, bum
Right.
bum, and it's in like boom, boom. That's all the score is, and it's perfect. So you have this droning, depressing, nihilistic, hopeless, gross, slow moving, whodunit monster movie, and then you have just the triumphant Amblin glow. I'll be right here. Yeah, it's like, which would you pick in 1982?
Swap the directors.
Steven Spielberg's The Thing and John Carpenter's E.T. John Carpenter's E.T. would be, well, he did Starman. So I think Carpenter in this era would surprise you. Here's what I'd say. I think Carpenter could have made a type of E.T. I don't think Spielberg ever could have made The Thing.
Not like this. Like,
he could have produced The Thing, but he
Right.
couldn't have directed The Thing. Not like this.
Yeah. I don't. It would have been a totally different movie.
Yeah.
But I do think John Carpenter's E.T. would also be a totally different movie.
Yeah, but if you guys haven't seen Starman, it's not that dissimilar in a lot of ways from E.T. Carpenter, when he was in his bag, he had more tricks up his sleeve that I think he gets credit for. And then eventually he shit the bed. But we're in his prime era right here. So
right.
Yeah.
All right. So we've reached that moment. Official ratings. What are you giving The Thing, Brandon?
Easy 5 stars. I got to look at where it's at in my top 5 horror. I think it's number 3, but just this movie is just so good. I think it's The Shining, then Get Out, then The Thing. I think top 3 horror. It's so good. I love the empty feeling you get at the end of the film because you know their fate. You just don't know who's what or what's happening, like, or what's what. So yeah, no, I absolutely love this film from beginning to end.
Nice. All right, Jason, what about you? Where are you at?
I have to pay Brandon a compliment quickly because there's been so much in the intervening years from 82 to now, so much discourse about The Thing. And I don't know if I've ever heard anybody refer to it as empty. It leaves you with an empty feeling. And that is a great way to sum up this movie. People always talk about the isolation, paranoia, but the emptiness of it. Yeah, that's really great. Can we do halves? Can we do halvesies?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
To me, it'd be 4.5 stars. The only thing that keeps it back from being a 5-star film is 2 things. The very beginning, Carpenter did not want the UFO to see the UFO at the beginning after the title credits or during the title credits. So he wanted it to be more of a surprise when they get out into the ice and you see that giant matte painting of the UFO in the ice, which is very, very well done. And I agree with him. That was done, I think, in reshoots or whatever without his permission. I don't think we need to see the UFO crash. I think it's better if we're like, what the hell is this movie? And then we just find a UFO and like, what the hell? Yeah. And then the ending, speaking of the practical effects, Rob Bottin had a literal nervous breakdown working this movie because he was working like 20, 23, 24-hour days for days at a time to be able to pull off these effects. And he was so worried that they were not going to be good, which is just ludicrous now, right? But he's so worried they were not going to be good that he had a break. He had like a psychotic break, had to leave the movie, and there were people who had to step in. And most of the third act, once Wilford Brimley, Blair, once the Blair monster at the end, and all that sort of stuff that kind of goes stop motion. It feels different. It looks different. It doesn't feel like the effects we've seen in the other parts of the movie. That's because it was done by other people who were stepping in to get the movie finished. And they were running out of time and money and everything. So the ending is not what they fully wanted to execute, which is not their fault. But for me, those two things fall short a little bit. It keeps it back from a perfect movie. But I would have to say it's still one of the top 5 best horror movies ever made. So 4.5 out of 5 stars.
I agree with both of you guys' points, but I think my rating comes down to just personal choice. Yeah, I totally see how this became a cult favorite. I totally understand it. It's really masterful. John Carpenter's mastery is on full display here. But it is also a movie that I wouldn't watch again unless I was watching it with someone who also hadn't seen it, and just to see their reaction, because that would be great. So for me, it's a solid 4 stars. I enjoyed it, absolutely. I will never watch it again at 1:00 in the morning for sure. Think I'd love to have your experience, Jason, where it's like a Thursday afternoon. Like, sure, when there's light out, that sounds great.
Okay, you want a real trip? Wait till you get one of those lake effect snows that comes off of Lake Erie, and you are jam packed in with snow, and you haven't left the house in like 3 days because you can't get anywhere. Fire this movie up when it's dark at 4:30 in the afternoon.
Nice.
It's dark outside. You haven't seen the sunlight in days. You haven't seen a human being except for whoever's in your house with you for days. You can't go anywhere. The city of Cleveland, they won't even, because it's overtime and a half, so they won't freaking clear their streets. You're fucking trapped. Put this movie on.
Put this movie on. Some hot cocoa.
This movie is born for Cleveland winters, because you will feel how cold. You will feel the cold of this movie, and it's a whole different experience.
Yeah, I'm okay on that. Yeah, like I said, fantastic movie. Totally get it. Its reputation. So happy to have finally knocked this off of my watch list. But it is a 4-star for me because it is gross.
Yeah.
And that's 4 from me, 4.5 from Jason, and a full 5 stars from Brandon. What did you guys think of The Thing? Please let us know. Okay, let's shake that off and let's talk about something. Let's talk about what's good. What's good? Brandon, what have you seen? What would you recommend? What has been good for you, sir?
Yes, man, I have been watching I've just gone through and watched so many movies here lately, because I've been doing this thing where I try to watch 31 horror films that I haven't seen before this month, and with the exception of today, I'm fully caught up finally. And it's just, for me, I'm not really keeping it too horror. I'm more doing horror, Halloween, or spooky. So I finally got the chance to watch Edward Scissorhands. That movie was Tim Burton. Man, I love that guy. That movie was so good. Johnny Depp was fantastic. Of course, you can't go without mentioning Danny Elfman on the score. Just, it's so good.
Absolutely, yeah. I adore that movie. Jason, what about you? What do you got? What do you recommend?
Oh, I'm going to give you 2. I'm going to give you a classic film I'm going to be talking about next year on Binge Movies. It is Akira Kurosawa's 3-hour epic classic film from 1954, Seven Samurai, which is the source code. It's the provenience for every man on a mission, war movie, team up movie, suicide mission movie you have ever seen in your life. Every action hero that doesn't come from this comes from Yojimbo, but this is the source code for pretty much any movie you've ever liked. So Seven Samurai. As far as spooky season goes, I also have a separate limited series I'm doing with two other film critics, Megan Kearns, who's part of the Spoiler Piece Theater, and she's a member of the Boston Film Critics Association, and then Paul from The Countdown, which is one of the most successful movie review podcasts in all of Australia. They've been around for about 10 years. He's a horror fan. We are going through the golden age of slashers together in a show called The Slashers. We're going year by year. It is not exhaustive, but it is comprehensive. It's like we're going calendar day, month by month for each year from 1980 to 1984. And that's going to be wrapping up right about the time this episode comes out. So you'll be able to binge, no pun intended, the entire show. There's another cheap plug. But because of that, I've got a lot of slashers on the brain. And I would say if you want an underrated slasher from the golden age of slashers, you should check out either The Burning or The Prowler. Either one of those are great slashers.
All right. So slightly different. Been trying to infuse my spooky month with some fun stuff. So it totally turns out that I never actually saw this movie from the beginning. So I was really excited to watch it again. And I caught the first Jumanji, not the Robin Williams one, the remake with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So I really love this movie. Like it's
pretty good.
Really,
Yeah.
Like it's really good for like taking that original concept and infusing it, making it more modern. I just thought that was really cool. And I finally getting to see it from the beginning. I totally like understood the characters and their motivation and how it all came to be. It was a blast. It was a blast of a movie. I had a fun time with it. Really, really funny. Really, really funny. Really excited to see if they continue this franchise because I think they should. I think it's been excellent. So that's for me. Jumanji. I think it's Welcome to the Jungle. I think that's what they call it. But yeah, I had a blast with that. So Jumanji for me. Seven Samurai and what was it? The
Either The Burning or The Prowler or both.
Burning or The Prowler.
Yeah.
And
Edward Scissorhands.
There. So there's your recommendations for the week. And that has been what is good for us here at Film Code. So now it is officially that time. Brandon.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
And gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
There's no crying in baseball.
To infinity and beyond.
You had the code word this week. Super excited. Remind everybody what your code word was and all of your clues, sir.
Yes, the code word was elevator. Your years were 2015 to 2020. The director of this film has the same lead actor in every single one of his films, and the lead actor of this film is in many famous 2000 to 2010 comedies.
Alrighty, Jason, you are our guest, which means you have the pleasure, the undistinguished gall of going first. So, what is your pick for the code word?
I'm supposed to guess what the answer is, right?
Yep. And if you could put the clues together, that would help too.
I got no fucking clue. I racked my brain for this since you sent me the code, and I'm like, okay, so 2000s to 2010s, lead actor in a lot of comedies. That's where I start, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, that's got to be like Will Ferrell or Vince Vaughn or something like that.
Right.
Ben Stiller. And I just cannot. And I'm like, what the fuck does that have to do with the elevator? I cannot piece this together. I cannot put this together. So I don't. Give it to me one more time.
Okay.
This was too good. This is hard.
Code word is elevator.
Yeah.
2015 to 2020. The director
Damn.
has the same lead actor in every one of his films.
That's what throws me
And-
off. That one right there. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Listen, I usually take the IMDb or Letterboxd to look this up.
Yeah.
I always start with the year, and then we go from there. So, yeah.
I see. I'm trying to do this from my mind and not from my smartphone. But Phoenix is sitting over there with a fucking phone.
Trust me,
cheating.
you like no. There's no cheating here. You're supposed to research it.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I apologize. I thought this was supposed to be like, okay, well, you just figure it out. You're supposed to know movies.
No. There's way too many movies for that.
Buddy, I host a show called BingeMovies. Movies. All I do is watch movies.
I'd be surprised if either of you have seen this.
Oh wow! All right.
See, that's where it doesn't.
You want us to come back to you,
Please come back to me.
Phoenix?
Come on, man.
That's because he doesn't know either.
Oh man.
That's because he's struggling too. He's like, I don't know.
I
What
was
the hell this
rooting for you,
is.
Okay. So I am sort of in the exact same position as Jason here. Yeah. So I went the route of looking through the 2000s and like, comedies. Like, okay, so who's been in a lot of comedies? And then I was like, okay, now who's been in a movie from 2015 to 2020? And I'm like, nobody. I don't I have no clue.
It's rough.
Yeah, so I did have a guess though. So I have a guess. It's a very, very bad guess. But I'm going with 2015's Inside Out. Pete Docter. I don't know. That's the best one I got. The elevator, I think, threw me off. I think there's an elevator to her brain in Inside Out, so that's what I'm going with. Yeah.
Jason?
Give it to me one more time. Come on,
Your
one more
code
time.
word is
Yes.
elevator.
Yeah.
It came out between 2015 and 2020. The director has the same lead actor in every one of his films.
In
And the
every
lead actor-
one of his films.
Yes.
He's never had a different lead actor.
No.
Wow.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yes, it does. Trust me. Trust me. When I give you the answer, you're gonna be like, "Oh my god."
Hang on a second.
This director must have like 2 movies like that.
That's the only option. So I thought the director might have been Pete Berg, but he has had, because he did a bunch of stuff with Mark Wahlberg, and Mark Wahlberg did a bunch of stuff in comedies during that time, and he's usually the leading man. I thought, well, maybe it's Skyscraper starring The Rock, but that's not right because Pete Berg didn't direct that movie. So I have no clue. I'm going to say Skyscraper because I have no clue.
Uh-huh. So I unfortunately have to say you guys are both wrong.
Yeah.
Of course.
Your director is Michael Tiddes.
Who?
Michael Tiddes.
Who the fuck is Michael Tiddes?
Your lead actor.
You made that up. That's an AI director. That's not
Your lead actor is Marlon Wayans.
What
Oh
the
my
fuck
God.
are you talking about?
He was in so many comedies in the early 2000s, 2010s.
I
Scary
don't think
Movie.
has
White
Marlon
Chicks.
Wayans made a movie past 2010?
Yes.
Probably not.
Other than Meet
wait.
the Blacks or whatever. What was that movie
Yeah.
called? Meet the Blacks?
Your film is Naked.
What in the world are you talking about?
It came out in 2017.
Not
You
even
have?
Not even 50 Shades of Black or whatever it was called. It's
I actually saw
naked.
this. That's crazy.
The synopsis is where you get your code word.
Elevator. Oh,
He
yeah.
wakes up in an elevator. It's a Groundhog Day type film where he keeps waking up in an elevator naked. Let me hold on. Let me. All right, following
This is
a wild
fake
night.
movie, man.
It's
I'm
real.
looking at
I've seen
this.
it.
This doesn't even look real.
Following a
Man,
following
this is
a
a
wild
Netflix movie. Those aren't real movies, Brandon. You can't be picking Netflix movies. Those are AI generated films. No wonder. I'm thinking this is something that people could see. People can't see this.
Phoenix has seen it. I've seen it.
This is so deep on some algorithm somewhere. Come on now.
Following a wild night out with his best man, Rob
on.
Anderson wakes up to find himself naked in an elevator on the morning of his wedding day and is forced to relive the morning over and over again.
Is this because I like AEW? Did you set this up as a stooge for the WWE to throw me under the bus?
Dude, listen. I watched both. I like both.
Yeah. Paul Levesque sent a message down the line and was like, tell your cousin, fuck that guy for BInge Movies. This is the film code screw job right here. Come on.
Hey, Brandon, you didn't screw us. We screwed ourselves.
Yeah, Brandon's be like, I didn't screw Jason. Jason screwed Jason. Ring the bell. Ding, 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 ding. I'm just left in the ring. I'm going,
This
what
isn't
in
a
the
Montreal
world?
screw job.
I'm writing in the air BINGE. Spitting on Brandon, throwing monitors. Everybody's gonna think it's a work for 40 more years. It's not. This is real. This guy screwed me right here.
I'm so mad because I've actually seen this movie though. That's the funny part, and it was actually pretty good. I'm like, I disagree with its 2.2 letterbox rating.
I honestly quite enjoyed it. Like,
Yeah.
it's this guy who's trying to who has to keep reliving the same day until he gets his wedding perfect.
Yeah, and Marlon Wayans is pretty good in it, and the idea of him waking up naked in the elevator is hysterical. But yeah, I enjoyed this movie. This was really fun.
Jason, please hate watch this.
The thing, I don't have Netflix. The thing that I love about Phoenix is he's like, I've never seen Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. But he's like, oh, naked. Yep, I know that one. Naked.
That's how we feel with him with
2017 Netflix movie.
That's how we feel with him with Titan.
Yeah, but Titan is excellent.
I like Titan. It's very strange, but it's very good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If you don't like body horror, how do you like that? Oh my God.
I know,
When her
right?
stomach is chrome and her skin's ripping off, and
Yeah.
spoilers for Titan. Ugh.
You'd be surprised at things Phoenix likes to watch.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
There, you'll have a film completely out of the blue. He's like, "Oh man, I love that film." Like, what the hell are you talking about?
The only thing that's for sure about Phoenix is nothing's ever for sure.
Exactly. All right, we got to get out of here. This has been a blast. Jason, thank you so much for joining us. Let everybody know where they can find you, sir.
As long as X, aka Twitter, exists, you can find me at BingeMovies. Movies. That's the show Twitter dealy. We're on Letterboxd at BingeMovies. Movies, Instagram at BingeMovies Movies lives. YouTube is BingeMovies. Movies. You can find the podcast anywhere you can find good podcasts. And check out the Slashers podcast if you're a horror fan. And if you're a horror fan who is wants to go a little bit deeper than the kills and get into some of the thought process and cultural background and so forth of slasher movies, plus all the great kills, all the blood and guts and gore, we've got it all for you over there at the Slashers. You can find that everywhere where you find good podcasts. Follow us on Letterboxd over there at the Slashers podcast, I think, and Instagram. I don't handle social media for that show, so find the show, find our social media. We'd love to have you. We have a great community of weirdos who support Binge Movies, and we'd love for you to join us. So come on, be a weirdo with us.
Awesome. And Brandon, let everybody know where they can find you, sir.
Yes, you guys can find me at FANTASMIC ears over on Letterboxd and Twitter/X. go check out what I'm watching. I'm excited to finally wrap because I've been ranking my my horrors, my 31 days of horror too. So I'm excited to finally wrap it up with day 31 in 10 days. I'm excited to see what else I watch because I haven't really planned anything out. I'm just like, oh, cool, I'll watch this. So go check out what I'm watching, and thank you guys again for listening.
All right, and you guys can find me on Twitter at I'mHOReviews1, that's the number 1, and on Letterboxd under PA Clouden. And as always, guys, please follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at FilmCoPod, and we will see you guys next week. We are out of here. Peace.